Welcome back. Pixel Doctor here.
Fexick here.
Deadlock there.
Veruca!
Existing.
Nick?
He's mute locked today.
Right here.
Yeah, he said something. I didn't hear what he said, but...
But,
Yeah, because someone decided to cut in.
Well, because no one was saying anything, so I had to get the intro going.
You know what? He's not mute, he's just Beaker from the Muppets.
No.
Like Deadlock, how are you today?
nah.
I wonder how many people even know who Beaker is. Like,
In this generation, probably not a lot, unfortunately. Ooh, but that could be an interesting curse to put on you in Loviana, like the base game. We could turn you into Beakerzod.
God.
Why would it be just me? Why couldn't it be anyone else?
Well, you're the one that has
Because-
the second state.
And they don't have the cartoonishly humorous responses to shit I do like you do.
You know what? Fair.
That's also true.
And to be fair, I'd roll with it.
Yeah, MJ would play it off too well. You would actually resist, and then everybody else would make it funny.
And I don't know... Yeah, there's really not much Jura would... Like, he can do to Jura.
But yeah,
Here's the
You
chicken.
would just turn the you would turn the meeps into rage grunts.
Beep.
Jesus, angry.
I want to make a Beaker character now, like someone who can only talk in meeps.
meep,
What is the...
meep.
That also would mean they couldn't be a spellcaster unless you wanted to do the same thing I was doing.
Yeah, that would pretty much rule out any spellcasting class or anything that requires a verbal component.
Aha, but you see, I gave you a thing that could give them spellcasting classes with the Final Fantasy thing, because dancers turn all verbal components into somatic.
I mean,
That's
yeah,
great.
you're free to
Final
change how
Fantasy.
those spells work.
Yeah, it's really up to the DM's discretion.
I mean, to be fair, verbal components just mean you're able to say something.
Yeah, there's some
No
kind
one
of
knows exactly what.
incantation. Yeah, it's just some kind of incantation that accompanies the spell.
Okay.
Papagada. Papagada. I love that video. It's one I keep going back to.
It gets me through the days.
Yeah, like realistically, if somebody is able to bind Okazad's hands and put a gag over his mouth, he's basically useless.
Or if I
Say that
cast
about most
Hold
mages,
First
though.
You really could say about most mages.
Well, do note that not having somatic or verbal component able to use those does still give you the chance to cast it. It's just a lot more difficult.
Yeah, you know, you have to use a somatic component or the somatic gestures with your feet instead of your hands.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah,
you,
you could-
which
if I'm okay
if
with
you
it,
were
it's-
if you were a Wukong would be perfectly fine.
Yeah,
Hey, come
get
here.
the monkey.
I need this monkey.
Get the monkey.
Got him.
Got.
Free him. Now I follow the monkey.
Now you throw him off the cliff.
Can't pick him up again. Can I? I'm not gonna try. I need that
I
star.
don't know. Try it.
No, I need the star.
Is this the only game that actually has monkeys?
Mario game?
Yeah, Mario game.
No, there's a few. They're in some of the Mario Party games. They're called Ukikis.
I mean, you also have the crossovers with Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Did we count that?
Considering Donkey Kong is where Mario
No,
debuted,
the thing
yeah.
is that the only reason I'm saying that we count that because they're unique. Not like, say...
They're still monkeys.
If you're talking
And they
about,
still
if you're
take
talking about
place in the
these
game.
monkeys, they're called Ukikis, and they do show up in other games.
I mean, all the Mario and Donkey Kong shit takes place in the same universe.
As proven with Mario Odyssey.
Yeah, but I mean, there's like no other things that look like Donkey Kong other than Donkey Kong, is what I mean.
Just not in the areas that Mario's ever been to.
I mean, I don't even think there's any in the Jungle Jeeps.
It's
Pretty much all the- I mean-
the Kongs all do look different, but
Yeah, I mean, the Kongs are relatively similar despite their subtle nuances.
oh, here it is. This is where the slide spits you out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Do this just right. boom. You can skip the whole slide.
Wow.
Yep. Unfortunately, there is always Chunky. Unfortunately, we remember that he's dead.
And then there's Chunky. He's dead.
He's dead.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's a meme video.
DK.
Someone like redid the Donkey Kong rap.
Chunky's dead.
But
Yeah, it's basically the Kongs afterwards.
yeah, it's like and DK. Chunky's
Chunky's
dead.
dead.
Alright, I don't remember which is the better side to
That
start
one's
on.
that one. Yeah, that one's the little one.
I know which one is which. I just don't know which one's the better way to start. Okay, I need to be small.
Oh my God! Someone casted enlarge reduce on this entire place.
Oh,
Or is it just on Mario?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
That is one of the funnest spells I think I have ever seen.
Enlarge reduce.
Well, especially if you combine it with other shit. Like, I was reading an excerpt from one campaign where I think a wizard... No, it was a bard casted polymorph on someone. Basically turned them into a, what was it? Like a pseudo-dragon. And then 2 wizards cast enlarge on him, so now he's a pseudo-dragon the size of a regular dragon, and he just fucking steamrolled the entire encounter.
Can you even stack it?
I think so. They were able to. I think it just depends on the DM.
yeah.
Well, because like I just don't
Yeah.
know what like what
Everything
what
depends on the DM, let's
stacking
be
it
honest.
does.
So now here's another thing.
Because
There's
I
another DM that I had when we enlarged, reduced, or when we enlarged person, the mage in the party, and he casted fireball.
Oh no, he just made a nuke.
Well, there was
Yeah.
another case I read about where someone prepared, like a spellcaster prepared the enlarge option for when the fighter threw a basically bowling ball-sized rock up over the enemy's head like a shot put.
Yep.
So then when that was done, he cast enlarge on it, and now it's basically a boulder-sized rock that came down and crushed the enemy to death.
Creativity.
Yeah,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it's,
Oh, yeah, look,
it's such a
Lakitu.
versatile spell.
And spinies. Well, that didn't last long.
That was fantastic.
I didn't think that was gonna. The shell mostly kills everything, so I didn't think the spiny was gonna stop me.
you know he's not wrong.
Yeah, but even in the old games, Spiny stops pretty much everything.
So, sure. Also, avoid the big fish.
Big Fish just wants to say hi.
Big fish wants to eat me. But he's got some cool sunglasses.
Yeah, he
does.
just wants to chill there like Kamina.
But yeah, no, and if your DM's allowing you to
What? I don't understand that.
play with stuff, you can definitely cause some really cool effects. With
Yeah, like if it's a DM that's familiar at all with the rule of cool, you're pretty much golden.
Game
Mario
one.
So I did see one where so in Pathfinder there's a spell that basically when you cast it, it creates a very really large ball made out of solid metal.
I hate this place.
So you had one person who casted that, and casted it above the big enemy boss who's a dragon. It's like, okay, the dragon's probably gonna survive. And then someone casted enlarge reduce on it. So it's literally just, oh yeah, by the way, that like, let me see what it was. Yeah, that's our D.
Alright, Chris, I'm going to show you how you get Wiggler. Or how you fight Wiggler.
Alright.
Gotta go all the
Here it
way.
is. So, you cause a flat vertical iron ball to spring into being. The wall inserts itself into any surrounding non-living material if the area is sufficient to do so.
Oh, are you fucking serious?
What?
He's talking. I was showing him how to get Wiggler.
Oh,
Yeah, so you have to drain the water and then switch sizes and climb all the way up.
That's some bullshit.
I mean, you kind of have to figure that there's something that could summon here.
Yeah, I figure like with the big and small gimmick, but still, god damn it.
He's pissed. Wow, you flooded my house. Why? Look at this mess. What am I gonna do now? The ceiling's ruined, the floor is soaked. What to do? What to do? Huff, huff. It makes me so mad. Everything's been going wrong since I got this star. It's so shiny, but it makes me feel strange.
No, he knows he's boss.
I don't know why they put points. I guess just to kill you. Just jump on him. Can't take this anymore. First you get me all wet, then you stomp on me. Now I'm really, really, really mad. Wah!
Also, the water would have gone right through his floor. What the fuck is his problem?
I think we took out his floor. Probably leaves and stuff. Hey, knock it off. That's the second time you've nailed me. Now you're asking for it. Linguini breath?
Linguini breath? Wow. Racist.
Is it racist or nationalist? Or whatever.
Ouch, uncle, okay, I take the star. Ooh, I feel better now. I don't really need it anymore anyway. Now I can see the stars through my ceiling at night. They make me feel peaceful. Please, come back and visit any time.
He's dead.
No, he's tiny.
Oh,
You beat the star out of him,
Oh,
and then they
what was that
died.
about not being dead?
well, he wasn't dead when he gave me the star.
But yeah, more or less what they did with Wall of Iron is they created a really tall rod of metal.
Real quick, sorry, I read this mission wrong and I thought it said make Wiggler squirt.
Oh,
And I was
God.
I was like,
Feeling awfully Freudian, are you?
So what they did with the Wall of Iron is they made it really, really thin because it has a area of up to a 5 foot square per level, and they were level 10. So they just made a, 50 foot long, rod of iron and cast it about 200 feet up above the target. It's like, okay. And then the wizard went, then one of the other characters went enlarge, and then proceeded to make it even bigger. And caused a giant metal rod to pierce a dragon.
Because enlarge basically just doubles all of its dimensions, right?
Mm-hmm. So it went from...
I'm not sure about Pathfinder, but in D&D it's the next size category up.
Well, for creatures, yeah, but for objects, I think it doubles or halves, depending on which version of the spell you're using.
Do it against objects.
Yes.
I think after this is TikTok clock.
Fun.
Okay, yeah, it is doubled. It is doubled.
Yeah, so it went from a 5 foot by... what was it?
50.
Yeah, 5 by 50 to
10 by
10
100.
by 100. And it was casted 200 feet straight up above this thing, so you have this giant rod of iron
Yeah,
descending.
but basically a metal rod a la Tungsten Thor or Project Thor coming down on top of this thing.
Yeah, it really hurt.
I'll bet.
Tennessee. Wow, you've gotten fast. I don't know. That's not fair. It just was race.
What was even better, though, was right before it hit. Because this was a dragon that had mostly ice for its, power and everything. I was a dick and I decided to heat metal it.
Oh, fan-fucking-tastic.
So not only did it pierce the dragon, it then proceeded to burn him
You
alive.
son of a bitch! You're not killing me. Coop it a quick.
Wait, that kills you?
Yeah, if you go to there,
Yeah.
it kills you.
He literally just turns around with a Glock and just BAM!
Oh, so you were playing a bard in that campaign too, MJ?
I don't remember if I was playing a bard exactly, because
metal.
Pathfinder...
Yeah, as far as I recall, heat metal is purely a bard spell. I don't think any other
I
class
do not
can use
believe it is.
I don't think it is.
Heat metal is a second level spell that is usable by bards, artificers, and druids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and in Pathfinder you can do it with druids, occultists, and psychics. The last two being from a source book that later came out.
There's also a
Originally,
couple clerics who can do it.
yeah, clerics can also do it if they have the domain of the sun or subdomain of metal, or if you're like a wizard or something with an elemental school of metal. Pathfinder's spellcasting is
Versatile.
it gives you a lot of ways to get the same thing. It's also pretty terrible.
Because I know, I mean, Deadlock's probably going to want a way to get control water on Okazad.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me is contemplating cleric.
Could be using healing powers too.
Yeah, we just reflavor a
Give me
bunch
a
of
star,
the
bitch.
just reflavor some of the healing magic to the water aquamancy.
Did that man just shit out a star?
He's a turtle. And yes.
You have to figure, like, if a Starman is, like, solid in any way, shape, or form, that's got to be painful to pass.
Yeah.
Apparently, that turtle, he just, passes it like it's, I don't know, corn.
5 itty bitty secrets. So we gotta find 5 secrets. I know where one of them is.
I know where 2 are, I think.
I don't remember any of them, but I've played this game since...
Is there anything on that small island off in the distance?
I think the small island is one of them. I think that's actually
Yeah,
where the
one
star
is there.
goes.
The pool up top is one.
Oh, that's right.
I think that garden might be one.
No! That was the wrong choice.
That was a very wrong
Yeah,
choice.
This level's not nice.
Well, we are in the late game now.
Yeah. This is my least favorite level, easily.
I would only
wait.
agree with that if only because of those freaking bottomless pits on the other side.
But, yeah, no, like, Pathfinder spellcasting is interesting, but I would not recommend any of you guys play it.
I mean, I've played it once. That was actually my introduction to D&D.
Oh, wow.
That was the cave thing, wasn't it?
I just can't recommend most people play it because it's something. No,
Pathfinder?
it's, yeah,
I don't know anything about Pathfinder.
it's basically 3.5, but with a different
yeah,
flavor
it's-
text.
It's basically the widely accepted.
Preferred version.
No, it's the widely accepted 4th version because the official 4th version was terrible.
Yeah. The 4th version was a tabletop war game, more or less.
But yeah, that was like, unfortunately for that game, like I'm not one of those people who refuses to play again because the first campaign was slightly
Bad.
ruined for. Oh, yeah, because the dungeon master was not great. Like by the time I had joined, he and a friend of mine who got me into it in the first place had this sort of rivalry between them because my friend had basically fucked over every little thing the DM had done, and he had become so embittered by that that he had devolved into that players versus the DM mindset.
That's what he sucks.
Yeah, so pretty much everything he did to just make shit harder for us.
Dick move.
But that was the same campaign that had the tale of King Jerry the Regicidal Rock.
Nice.
What?
Wait, have I never told you that story?
I don't think so, no. That sounds amazing.
How far are we into this episode?
Let's see. I'm trying to-
Save it for the next episode.
Wait, hold on. We can kill this Goomba before he kills me.
Killed by
Oh,
Tiny
Goomba.
Goomba.
Cue Attack on Titan music. I can't speak German. Oh, no, I guess he's like Reinhardt or
10
something.
minutes, still.
I could probably do it in 10 minutes.
I wonder how long the story is, though. Ah!
I posted the theatrical version of it on Reddit, actually.
Oh,
How well received was it?
Wait a minute.
And how many racist comments did you get?
I forget, actually. It's been a while since I've been on the site. Let me check.
I actually recently posted something on Reddit, and it was the first time I posted on the board, and it was the Ace Combat board. And I got like 500 plus upvotes in 2 days. because I found some art and I wanted to share it, and people were like, "Yeah, this is amazing."
Well, apparently, in the 8 months since I posted it, it's received 33 upvotes.
Nice. I shall wave my internet penis at you. 400. Like,
Okay,
20.
so
Go.
it might take the remainder, but I can read it to you. So,
I'm working on the
About-
100 coins, so this is gonna take me a little bit.
So, about 2 years ago, or 3 in this case, I first got into tabletop RPGs via a Pathfinder campaign with a couple of friends from my job at the time. The group consisted of myself, a coworker, our manager, the manager's wife, and the manager's friend, who was our dungeon master. The rest of them had already started the campaign and were several sessions in by the time I arrived and joined them. So I had to hit the ground running with creating my character and learning the rules. The setting was a homebrew sci-fi universe with an even more expansive list of races than the game itself already provided. I decided to play it safe and go with a human while I took the time to learn out of game what benefits and drawbacks came with the other races. I was told that the Dungeon Master could be a bit harsh, and that I would be wise not to get too emotionally invested in my character, as he was likely going to be brutally murdered at some point. Taking that to heart, I started doing my research in case I needed to make another one. I played a rogue, specifically an eerily cheery galactic assassin. The co-worker played an elven ranger, the manager's wife a homebrew alien cleric, but the manager himself was the one that really stood out, as his character, hulking over the rest of the party, was Rumson, the fighter who was the hybrid spawn of a giant and an orc. It should be stated at this point that the manager and the dungeon master had been playing tabletop RPGs together for years, and the manager had garnered a reputation for using outlandish and frequently reckless courses of action in an attempt to derail every campaign the dungeon master had ever made. With a strength score that was through the roof, an intelligence score that effectively made him dumber than a box of hair, and a second pair of arms brought on by exposure to an alien mutagen, it appeared as though Rumson was well poised to follow suit. Another thing I should note is that by the time my rogue joined the party in a podunk space station orbiting a dying star in the middle of nowhere, the three of them, or more specifically Rumson, as I would later learn, had managed to piss off pretty much every powerful organization in the galaxy. The Federation of Planets that acted as the world's government, and the rebel space pirate force currently at war with said federation had a sizable bounty out for the party, a bounty I had just inherited by throwing in with them. Also out for our blood was a long list of merchants, corporations, galactic banks, bandits, a tribe of cross-dressing Martian tieflings, and one particularly disgruntled used starship salesman with a disproportionate prosthetic leg. I was told it was quite the story. Anyway, after leaving the space station, we proceeded to a planet whereupon we began investigating an attempted takeover by a hostile artificial intelligence. It was here that I learned just how insane Rumson was. Because he was part giant, he was massive, and this meant he had difficulty fitting through doors. Of course, he'd just barrel through the thresholds and keep the pace with the rest of the party. This time, however, the Dungeon Master had the group of aliens that were controlling the AI take cover in their starship, and made it a point to mention that Rumson could not fit through the door, nor was the hull weak enough for him to break through it. In answer, Rumson instead used his Samson-like strength to lift up the ship from the outside and violently shake it like a paint mixer at a home improvement store, killing everything inside. He also had a penchant for crafting unique weapons, including a spear that injected powdered fluorescent light bulb glass and bleach into an opponent's bloodstream, and grenades fashioned from large glass jars that he'd lovingly filled with shit. His words, not mine. I point these things out for two reasons. First, it shows the depravity of the character himself, giving me then and you now an idea of just what sort of person we're dealing with here. Second, it laid the groundwork for an equally insane long con that the manager was playing, his self-righteous personal endgame against the Dungeon Master that none of us saw coming. And it all began after hostile aliens got their metaphorical paint mixed when, on the way back to our own ship, Rumson found and picked up a human-sized rock, which he named Jerry. Immediately, the Dungeon Master was skeptical. He'd had several campaigns turned on their heads by the manager before, and he'd all but lost his patience with it. "What the hell are you doing?" he said. "Space gets lonely and stressful sometimes," Rumson replied, "so I'm bringing a pet with me." "That's not a pet, it's a goddamn rock, and I know you're going to do something stupid with it." "No, I'm not. This is Jerry, and he's my emotional support rock. I don't have to show you my paperwork, and you're not legally allowed to ask for it." This went on for another minute or so, until the Dungeon Master realized that arguing service animal laws with an amusement park security manager was a losing battle. He acquiesced, and by the time the ship had lifted off and left the planet behind, Rumson had drawn a crude smile on Jerry's front and wrapped a scarf around him. For the next several arcs of the campaign, Rumson took Jerry everywhere. He'd been saved a seat at the galley table, he had his own bunk above Rumson's, and after a while somehow even managed to have his name added to the watch bill. The AI inside the ship's command console even knew him by name. Before long, the rest of us had normalized Jerry in our minds. He'd been extremely useful. To the cleric, he was a shield that took hits and spared her the need to constantly be flinging healing spells at people. To myself and the ranger, he was reliable cover from which we could plot and execute our moves in combat. And of course, to Rumson, he was an ever-present pillar of emotional support. His rock, if you will. Fast forward several sessions. We'd had many adventures with Jerry in tow, spanning much of the in-game galaxy. From helping citizens and fighting rebels, to destroying orbital weapons of mass destruction and accidentally releasing a giant imprisoned dragon from inside the moon, Jerry the Rock was witness to it all. He'd even managed to single-handedly defuse a conflict between two warring tribes on the desolate remains of Earth. I'm not kidding. Even the Dungeon Master had come to find Jerry amusing, and Rumson's behavior, while still far from perfect, had improved significantly following the Rock's addition to the crew. His skepticism laid to rest, he guided us to the edges of the galaxy, and eventually to the last safe haven planet in an otherwise war-torn game, the Protoss homeworld. It was here that the long-kept truth of the struggle between Federation and space pirates was safeguarded, and with it, the key to potentially saving the galaxy from an all-encompassing catastrophe. To summarize, the Earth in this particular reimagining of the solar system was one that the DM had recycled from a previous campaign with more standard fantasy elements. Specifically, magic and other such forces pulse through it even now, thousands of years after it had been abandoned. The Federation and space pirates both wanted to harness this power, now lost to time, and rule the entire universe with the legendary god power said to be contained within an otherwise barren planet. What followed was quite the spectacle. At Jerry's suggestion, by which I mean Rumson talking to himself and simply giving the Rock its own voice, we decided to screw both factions by sneaking into Earth's atmosphere and swiping the arcane power for ourselves right out from under their noses. Easier said than done, of course, but with some good rolls, Rumson using Jerry to address and threaten the factions via holographic projection, thereby stalling for time, and narrowly avoiding an encounter with what I can best describe as a roided-up Sarlacc, we managed to siphon what magical energy we could find onto our ship and return to the Protoss homeworld no worse for the wear. Immediately, the Protoss King had his best research teams reverse engineer the magic we brought back, confident that before long, we would have such means to halt the war between the Federation and the space pirates with a deterring show of power. In the meantime, the king insisted that we be honored and endowed with the most revered title of Homeworld Sentinels, basically this world's equivalent of bestowing the Congressional Medal of Honor. We each got dolled up in the ceremonial garb expected of us for the ceremony, and after some persuasion on Rumson's part, even Jerry was to be awarded the title, for his part in keeping the enemy forces at bay. The ceremony went well enough. We each walked the length of the king's audience chamber before a massive crowd of cheering protocytes, took a knee before the king himself, and were awarded a title based on feats performed during our little covert run on Earth. I was inducted into the Sentinel Order of Shadows, the Cleric into the Order of Life, the Ranger into the Order of Nature, and Rumson into the Order of Might. When it came time for Jerry to be inducted into the newly formed Order of the Stone, Rumson walked back up to the king with him, and positioned him in such a way that made him look like he was kneeling. The Dungeon Master had an honest-to-God smile on his face, and the whole thing with Jerry having turned out far better than he thought it would. After the bestowing of the title, Rumson tilted Jerry back upright and lifted him back up, but rather than walk back to the rest of us, Rumson lifted Jerry up over his head. Then Rumson used Jerry, the rock the size of a person, to crush the king to death. The immediate initial shock gave way to stunned silence, both in-game and out. The Dungeon Master could only watch in appalled, slack-jawed horror as Rumson brought Jerry to the king's throne, moving him in such a way that made it look like the rock was dragging him instead. He set Jerry on the throne, and then proceeded to have an entire conversation with it, providing Jerry's voice as he'd done before. "Jerry," Rumson asked. "Why? How could you?" "Ah, my dear Rumson," replied the rock, "it had to be this way. For the false king who ruled over these fair people harbored the darkest of intent to complete the magic weapons and sell the allegiance of the Protoss people to whichever side paid the highest. As a homeworld sentinel, a defender of this planet and its people, I could not allow such folly. My dear Protossites, hear me now. Where your king had failed you, allow me to succeed. Lend me your support, and let us all take our place at the pinnacle of the galaxy as it was always meant to be." The Dungeon Master had started to regain his composure, and that familiar look of disgust at the manager's antics now graced his face once more. He smiled, confident that there was no way in hell that the people would believe the word of an orc giant speaking on behalf of a rock. His Achilles heel, however, was the fact that, for him, a natural 20 meant automatic success, and a natural 1 meant automatic failure. So when I say that Jerry, by way of Rumson, rolled a natural 20 on diplomacy, while the Protossites in the audience chamber rolled a natural 1 on sense motive, I invite you to contemplate just how livid he was at the outcome. The people all took a knee, genuflecting before their new king. Through gritted teeth and furious tone, the Dungeon Master described how, from a single person to the entire crowd, the booming roar of "All Hail King Jerry" echoed from the castle and into the city beyond. Weeks pass in-game. Rumson was now Jerry's Grand Vizier and his Majesty's emissary to the common people, basically a fancy way of saying that he continued to speak for the Rock. My rogue was granted a dukedom and was entrusted with overseeing the planet's clandestine operations. The cleric and ranger were likewise each granted titles and holdings, and were given the positions of high priestess to the king and military governor, respectively. And once the research team had completed the magical weapons, we assembled once more and flew back to Earth. Wielding the arcane might of the gods, we managed to halt the fighting between the Federation and space pirates, and by the command of King Jerry, both factions were permanently disbanded and their respective leaders executed. Peace had returned to the galaxy, and all prospered under King Jerry's rule. Events with work and my social life kept me from attending any more sessions. However, I heard from my co-worker and the manager that the Dungeon Master had finally gotten tired of the bullshit, and had flipped the metaphorical table. He'd sent a black hole through the galaxy, killing everything and destroying the entire in-game world. As mentioned at the beginning, it's been almost 3 years since then, and he hasn't agreed to be the Dungeon Master in a campaign with the manager since this incident. So ends the tale of King Jerry, the Rock who conquered the galaxy.
I love that.
I remember hearing this story, and it's still just as amusing as it was then.
We gotta do more crazy shit and make stuff like that happen.
I mean, we have plenty of chances to. It's just we haven't
Done
much of
anything.
it.
Is a thing.
Yeah, we've mostly been kind of just like looking for money. Like,
Yeah.
now that I think about it, we're kind of just. But we're not
We're
even,
mercenaries. That's all we are.
we're just, I was gonna say half mercenaries, but just gonna kind of say we're kind of like hobos, just living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
Well, if you're talking low Vienna, the technical term is privateers.
Hobo with a ship.
I mean, what's a pirate minus the ship? He's just a creative homeless guy. So saith Bo Burnham.
Oh no.
Yeah, I wish I could take credit for that one, but I didn't come up with that.
I got the 100 coin star, by the way.
Yeah,
Oh.
I noticed. It took the entire story for you to get it.
I forgot that if you ground pounded the big Goombas, they gave you 5 coins.
Well, I call that. See, I was able to access this area, so I heard the where I knew it was up there. I just never knew how to get to it.
Now you do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you go back to play it, if you ever do, you can go back and kill Beluga. Kill him dead.
I'm honestly not sure if I would dig this game out again just to jump 3 times on an insect's head.
Well,
Rip. At least you got the 100 coin star.
I was gonna say, good thing you got that.
yeah, I can end the video. We'll see you guys later.
Later.
Bye-bye.